What if learning football had nothing to do with football? What if it just meant finally understanding what your husband is yelling about every Sunday, or having something to talk about with your high school son who plays football? Actually looking forward to football season because now you have something to share with your new boyfriend. Or walking into work on Monday morning and just joining the conversation instead of standing there and sort of just smiling and nodding because everyone else seems to understand the game and you don't because you've never learned. Because here's what I believe. I believe that football isn't the goal. Connection around football is. Football is simply the language that millions of people use to connect with the people that they love. And I don't want you to miss out on those opportunities, those moments, just because no one ever taught you the language of football. I mean, the problem isn't you, obviously. The problem is that football has always kind of been taught backwards. And people try to teach you in like with statistics or naming champions in certain years, or they talk about draft picks or the best guy on the team. And I feel like they just expect you to somehow remember all of it. Well, today we're going to do something totally different. I am going to teach you all 32 teams in hopefully less than 30 minutes. And I bet, this is my bet, that tomorrow you're still going to remember almost every single one of them. How? You're probably like, wait, how? It's not because you're memorizing them. And it's not because I'm going to introduce you to 32 different logos. It's because I'm going to introduce you to 32 different personalities that you'll never forget. Because this is so much bigger than football. If you're new here, hi, I'm Amanda. Before I ever worked in the world of football with NFL players, I was exactly where you are. I wanted to really understand football, but not because somebody forced me to. It's because I genuinely wanted to enjoy when the game was on. I wanted to be able to join the conversation and stop feeling like everyone else knew this secret language that I somehow just missed. But here's what I discovered is that nobody actually teaches football in a way that's easy to remember. Instead, they throw these things out at you. Like I talked about, the statistics and the division names and the crazy draft picks and all the historical rivalries. And I feel like your brain is just over here going like, can we just start with who's who? So that's exactly what we're going to do today. I'm going to introduce you to all 32 teams and their personalities with analogies that'll actually make it stick. So kind of think of it like speed dating, which I never did, but I always thought seems fun, but also overwhelming because this time, instead of meeting 32 different people, you're going to meet 32 football teams. I think that's kind of fun. That's the kind of speed dating I want. I mean, because here's why I feel like it matters more than you might think. It's that most women don't struggle with football because football is complicated. It's not. They struggle because, like I said, they were taught backwards. I mean, imagine trying to learn everyone's name at a wedding before you know how they're connected to the bride and groom. I mean, that's impossible. But once somebody says oh, she's the bride's sister, or that's the really funny uncle, or oh, those two have been best friends since kindergarten, all of a sudden that clicks, right? Because you recognize that person and you know the story and the association. And that's I feel like football can work the same way. So once you have personalities for all the teams, I feel like everything else starts to make sense. Like when you hear about a schedule or a rivalry or who's in the playoffs, and even why fans react the way that they do, because now you're following people and not just the helmets and the jerseys. I mean, I have to laugh now because before I worked with NFL athletes, keeping track of the teams kind of felt impossible. I mean, I remember sitting at I'm a nerd, first of all. Disclaimer, super deluxo nerd right here. But I remember sitting at the kitchen table, with my notebook, and I was determined. I thought, if I'm going to learn football, I'm really I'm after it. And 5 minutes later, I would have the logos everywhere. There'd be birds and cats and horses. whatever the logos were with the colors, and I try to memorize them all. But then I was like, I can't remember if the orange team is Denver or Cincinnati, or if they're both, and why they're both, or why every blue team just sort of looked identical. And I feel like somebody would say like Green Bay, and I'd be like, well, wait, that's in Wisconsin, right? And then like another person would mention, say, Kansas City or Buffalo. And at one point, I honestly wondered if football fans were just pretending that they knew who everyone was, or if I just was super behind, because it kind of all sounded like alphabet soup to me. And then something happened that completely changed the way that I learned. I stopped memorizing everything in my little notebook, and instead I started giving the teams personalities. Like the Cowboys, their logo wasn't just a star. They became the gorgeous ex-boyfriend from high school who still tells stories about high school. It's so silly, but it works. And like the Lions became the woman everyone underestimated because she became like quietly super successful. Or the Bills became the friend who keeps getting heartbreakingly close to their dream. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't memorizing. I was remembering, because stories, I feel like stories is just how our brains naturally work. And if this works for someone who built their career around the NFL, I feel like it's going to work for you too. So are you with me? I hope so. Because I feel like you might be thinking, Amanda, there is no way I'm going to remember 32 teams in this short little video. I mean, I get it, but here's the thing. Don't try. Seriously. Your goal today isn't perfection. Your goal is familiarity. Think about it like, have you ever started a brand new job and you walk into the office, you're not going to remember everybody's names, but by the end of the week, a few people start standing out because you've had interactions or you know a story about them. And then by the end of the month, you know almost everyone in the office. And I feel like football works the same way. Today, I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to make those introductions, and then the remembering will actually come naturally afterwards. So, you ready? Let's meet the teams, okay? Let's start with the AFC East. There are 4 teams from kind of the eastern part of the country, and think of this division like one very competitive neighborhood. We know those Eastern families, they're competitive. So first we have the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are the incredibly talented friend who always seems to get so close. She makes it to the final interview. She's the runner-up on the reality show. She's like the bridesmaid again. And everyone keeps saying this has to be her year. But somehow something always happens. And I feel like their fans are incredibly loyal because they've lived through a lot of those almost. So when you hear the Bills, think so close, but still chasing that big moment. Okay, next we have the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins are like that effortlessly cool friend that somehow always sort of looks like they're on vacation, like with palm trees and sunshine in the ocean. Yeah, you kind of want to be them, right? In their fast car with some bright colors. They're really exciting and they're super flashy. I mean, that's Miami in general. But when they're playing well, they're one of the most entertaining teams in football. Think of them as like the woman who walks into brunch wearing white linen and everyone else is in their like sweatshirts and yoga gear. She just sort of like has a vibe. And then there's the New England Patriots. So for almost 20 years, the Patriots were the woman everyone wanted to be. She got promoted. She won all the awards. Everything just sort of went her way. And people, I don't know, they kind of got tired of hearing how successful she was. But now she's back to rebuilding. I mean, she's still respected because obviously she accomplished a ton in those 2 decades, but everyone is watching to see if she can become that crazy powerhouse again. So think former Queen Bee. Now, the New York Jets. Okay, The Jets. If every friend group has someone who says, this year is going to be different, it's my year, that's the Jets. Their fans are unbelievably hopeful. Every offseason feels like this fresh start, and every year begins with optimism. Like sometimes that works. Yeah, sometimes, but I don't know. Their fans have sort of learned to laugh through the heartbreak. No, that's terrible. But think of the Jets as the eternal optimist who always believes that the next chapter is going to be the best one yet. I mean, I kind of love that. Like, who doesn't love the eternal optimist? I mean, there's something just really lovable in that, I think. Okay, so here's the thing. If you're sitting here listening to this and you're realizing, like, wait, I'm actually remembering these. That's exactly why I created my free confidence building lesson. Because football has never been confusing because you're not smart enough. That's for darn sure. It's confusing because almost nobody teaches it in a way that our brain naturally remembers. So in the free lesson, I show you why football has always felt overwhelming and how learning it can actually be really fun once someone explains it differently. So if you've ever wanted to feel confident watching the games instead of like hoping nobody asks you questions, you're going to love it. So click on the link in the description below and you'll get it for free. Okay, so now let's keep meeting the rest of the NFL. On to the AFC North. Now we're moving into one of the toughest neighborhoods in football. So if like the AFC East is competitive, the AFC North is the family that settles arguments at Thanksgiving by arm wrestling or thumb wrestling, probably arm wrestling. Because these teams pride themselves on being tough, like super physical, really resilient, and they're some of the biggest rivals in the NFL, which is really fun. So first we have the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are the woman who never needs to tell you that she's successful because you just know. Like she's uber confident without showing off. And I don't know, like she walks into a room kind of quietly, but somehow everybody just notices her presence. She's not flashy. She's not even dramatic. She just gets things done. And I feel like the Ravens have built a reputation for being disciplined, smart, and really, really tough to beat. So when people play Baltimore, they know they're in for a really, really long day and probably some ice at the end of it because it's tough. So think of them as the friend who trains for marathons before work. I mean, just because she can. I would love to do that. But if I get out for a walk, that's good enough for me. So when you hear the Ravens, think quiet confidence, tough as nails. Now we have the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are like the cool younger sibling who suddenly became really popular because for years, people didn't really pay them much attention. Like then almost overnight, they got really, really stylish, like confident and exciting. And now everyone wants to know what they're doing because that's what we want is to know what the cool kids are doing. So they're so much fun to watch. And they're fearless. They're not afraid to challenge the biggest names in football, both on the field and in the media. So think of them as the woman who started her own business while everyone else was still just sort of figuring things out. And now people are asking for her advice. So their mascot, you know, being a fierce animal, it really fits because they're sleek, they're fast, they're dangerous when they're on a roll. And that's the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, next we have the Cleveland Browns. Oh, my poor Browns fans. I mean, if loyalty had a face, it might be a Browns fan. Like the nicest people in the world. But imagine your best friend who's stayed loyal to the same hairdresser for years. Like, even though there's been some questionable hairstyles, like that's Browns fans. Like this team has had so many difficult seasons and they've experienced more disappointment than almost anyone. And yet their fans keep showing up week after week, year after year. And I mean, there's obviously something really admirable about that. Like the Browns fans remind me of the friend who refuses to give up on someone they love. And she's hopeful and she's resilient and she believes that better days are coming. So even if those days take a little longer than expected, she's sticking in there with them. Gotta love it. Okay, next we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if football had like a blue collar dad, it would definitely be the Steelers. There's no unnecessary flash, no drama, no trying to impress anybody. Just show up, work hard, do your job, repeat. And this is one of the most respected organizations in football because they've built this culture of consistency. They're like that family-owned business that's been successful for generations because everyone knows exactly what it stands for. Like reliable, disciplined, super tough, and they don't need to be the loudest team, although sometimes they are, but their reputation speaks for themselves or speaks for itself, right? So think of the Steelers as the dad who literally can fix anything in your house. He doesn't brag about it. He just kind of quietly grabs his toolbox and gets that stuff done. So let's look at the AFC North in one sentence. If these four women walked into a networking event, so the Ravens, they would already have everyone's respect. The Bengals would have everyone asking where she got her flashy outfit. And the Browns would somehow know every person's birthday. Yeah, they would. And the Steelers would already be like helping stack the chairs before the event was even over. Totally different personalities, but all of them memorable in kind of their own unique way. Now let's head to the AFC South. This division feels a little like four women who all chose completely different paths in life. They don't have much in common, which actually, I don't know, kind of makes them easier to remember probably. So first, let's start with the Houston Texans. The Texans are the young professional who's finally starting to figure things out. I mean, not long ago, she was still learning. She was making some mistakes, finding her confidence, but now people are starting to notice her. The Texans have become like one of football's exciting up-and-coming teams. I feel like they're really building something. You can almost feel the momentum. So think of it as the woman who just got promoted and suddenly everyone recognizes and realizes, oh, she's going places. Next, we have the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts remind me of like the dependable middle manager who has seen it all. She's calm, she's experienced, she's been around long enough to know that trends kind of come and go, but she's had incredible highs and really frustrating lows. But somehow she always finds a way to stay relevant. And when people think of the Colts, many still remember some of the legendary quarterbacks who helped sort of define the franchise. And I feel like that history still matters. So think of the Colts as the woman who's been in the company for like 20 years. Everyone just respects her because she's earned it. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are like the woman who moved to Florida and completely reinvented herself. She's fun, she's energetic, and she's still kind of figuring out exactly who she wants to be, but she's definitely more excited than people expected, or more exciting. So the Jaguars have spent years trying to build consistency, but sometimes they're like surprisingly good, and sometimes they're still finding their footing. They're kind of like that wild card friend. You never quite know which version you're going to get, but I don't know, that's kind of part of the fun. Next, we have the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are that strong, dependable friend who helps everyone move. I mean, you know that one. She owns the truck. She shows up early. She never complains, and she always follows through. And that's Tennessee. They're known for being physical, really, like they're tough and they're willing to outwork people. So they're not usually trying to be super flashy. They just kind of keep showing up. And there's something sort of comforting about that, right? Because think like dependability over the drama. So if I had to sum the AFC South up in one sentence, it would be the Texans are the ones climbing the ladder. The Colts are the respected veteran. The Jaguars are reinventing themselves. And the Titans are that dependable friend that everyone counts on. So next, we're going to head west where things get a little bit louder because AFC West football is kind of like the current it teams. They're like the Hollywood personalities and they have the league's biggest fan bases and one of the most intimidating brands in sports. So the AFC West. Okay, now we're heading to what I like to call the celebrity neighborhood of the NFL. Like I said, big personalities, big fan bases, national attention. And the one team that has become the standard that I feel like everyone else is chasing, which is the Kansas City Chiefs. So if every friend group has one woman who seems to have everything going for her, that's the Chiefs. Like, great career, beautiful house, amazing husband, and her vacations always somehow seem to look perfect. So here's the thing. She's not trying to make anyone jealous. She's just winning over and over and over again. And that's Kansas City. So over the past several years, they've become one of NFL's most successful teams. So when people say, like, everybody wants to beat the Chiefs, they're not kidding. Because if you can beat the Chiefs, you've probably beaten one of the best teams. But here's the funny part. Like, the better they get, the more people love to root against them. And, well, okay, it goes both ways. Love to root against them and also join the bandwagon. But it's not because they're bad people. Of course not. It's because everyone secretly wants to be the one who can finally knock the champion off the throne. So think of this as the woman who's become the standard that everyone measures themselves against. Next, we have the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are the woman who used to absolutely dominate the industry. Like, she won awards, everyone wanted to work with her, and then life changed. She stepped back for a while, and now she's ready. She's rebuilding, and she's reminding everyone exactly who she is. Because Denver has one of the most loyal fan bases in the whole game. I know because I was born there. And their fans show up no matter what. Snowstorms, been there. Freezing weather, they're still there. So have I been. Rough season, still wearing orange, which I still don't understand because orange is totally not the new black. I feel like orange doesn't look good on anyone, but they still wear them. And there's just so much loyalty. So think of the Broncos as the accomplished executive who's making the comeback after kind of taking a few years off. And everyone knows what she's capable. So beware. Watch out. They're just waiting to see her reach that sort of like level that she once had. Okay, next we have the Las Vegas Raiders that used to be the Oakland Raiders. So the Raiders, they don't walk into a room. They make a huge entrance. Picture the woman in the leather jackets with like the black boots and the confident smile, and she does not care if anyone likes her. She's not trying to fit in at all, and she knows exactly who she is. That's the Raiders. Their fans are some of the most passionate fans in sports, and that silver and black has become completely iconic because I feel like the team is always sort of just embracing being a little rebellious, like a little bit edgy and a little bit different, which even though they moved from Oakland to Las Vegas, the identity stayed the exact same. They are unapologetically themselves, whether they're winning or they're struggling. They never stop being the Raiders. So think of it as like the woman who sort of just writes her own rules and is not changing for anyone. Okay, next we have the Los Angeles Chargers. So have you ever known someone who's like incredibly talented? She's beautiful, smart, funny, and every year you think this is finally going to be her year? That's the Chargers. Because every season begins with excitement. Like, people are looking at the roster and they're like, yes, this is going to be really good. And sometimes they are, but sometimes things just don't quite come together in the way everyone expected. And they're kind of football's like almost. And it's not because they lack the talent. It's because talent and results are not exactly the same thing. So the Chargers sort of remind me of the woman who has every ingredient for success, but she's just waiting for everything to sort of click. And when it does, I feel like, yeah, watch out. They're going to be good. So here's the AFC West in one sentence. The Chiefs are the woman everyone wants to beat. The Broncos are that respected veteran making a comeback. The Raiders are the rebel who refuse to blend in. And the Chargers are the incredibly talented friend you're always rooting to hopefully has a breakthrough. So before we head to the NFC side, I just want you to take a second because have you noticed something? Like, I haven't asked you to memorize logos. I haven't asked you to memorize the mascots or like the championships or the statistics. I've just introduced you to 16 different people, like different personalities. And that's it. Because again, your brain doesn't remember information. It remembers stories. And if I ask you tomorrow who the leather jacket team is, you'd probably say the Raiders. And if I asked you who's the friend who always gets so close, you'd probably remember it's the Bills. And if I asked you who's the woman everyone's chasing, you'd immediately think the Kansas City Chiefs. So, I mean, see, like you're already learning football differently. And I feel like here's the really cool part about that is that we haven't even gotten to the NFC yet, which is some of the biggest brands in the NFL, like the biggest rivalries and the ones you might already know, like they're the most recognizable teams. So if you're still with me, I hope you are, you're doing amazing. So let's meet the other half of the NFL. Let's start with the NFC East. So now we move on to the NFC, and we're starting with one of the most dramatic divisions in football. So if the AFC North is like Thanksgiving dinner, the NFC East is that reality TV. Like everyone has a history, everyone has opinions, and nobody is like quietly rooting for their team. You're going to know. Number one, you guessed it, the Dallas Cowboys. So let's just get this one out of the way because the Cowboys are that gorgeous ex-boyfriend everyone still talks about. He's like undeniably attractive, but he peaked early. Why is that so satisfying? I mean, here's the problem. Like, he kind of knows that he peaked early, and every Thanksgiving, somebody brings him up. I mean, the Cowboys are one of the most recognizable sports brands on earth. Whether you love them or absolutely cannot stand them, you know who they are. They've won championships. They have a massive global fan base. And because they're called America's team, they naturally get like more attention than everyone else. But here's what's funny. Cowboys fans believe that every season could be like the season. And everyone else, like, they enjoy reminding the Cowboy fans when it's not the season. So think of Dallas as this incredibly charismatic guy who's still charming enough that people keep believing that this is going to be the comeback year. Next, we have the New York Giants. Okay, the Giants are the quiet woman who surprises everyone. Like, she doesn't post about her accomplishments, she doesn't brag, but then one day you find out she like casually ran a marathon or started this super successful company. And I feel like that's New York Giants. Like, they're unpredictable. Sometimes they struggle. Sometimes they knock off the biggest team in football when like nobody expects it. And they are like the reminder that experience and confidence can beat that flash. So think, never underestimate the quiet one. I never have. So hopefully you won't either. That's the Giants. Let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. So if you've ever met someone who's like incredibly confident and doesn't care whether you approve or not, but somehow keeps proving everyone wrong, like that's Philadelphia. Eagles fans are so famous for being passionate. They're loud, they're emotional, and I feel like they're really protective too because they don't apologize for loving their team. And honestly, neither do the players. Think of Jason Kelsey. The Eagles have become like one of the NFL's most consistent franchises in the last like several years because they're super physical, they're confident, and they expect to compete every year. So think of the woman who walks into the boardroom without shrinking herself. Like, she's not arrogant, she just knows what she's capable of. And that's Philadelphia. Okay, next we have Washington Commanders. The Commanders remind me of the woman who's finally turning her life around, like after a difficult chapter. So for years, like things just didn't go the way the fans hoped. There was new coaches, new quarterbacks, lots of frustration. But lately, there's this renewed excitement. There's fresh leadership, fresh energy, and kind of the sense that things are finally moving in like the right direction. Like, you know, the friend who calls and says, I finally feel like myself again, like every woman after she's had a baby. That's Washington. Think fresh start, new confidence. Yeah, That's Washington. Okay, now we have the NFC East. Oh, let's do it in one sentence, okay? So the Cowboys are that famous X. The Giants are the quiet overachiever. The Eagles are the unapologetic, confident leader. And the Commanders are writing that brand new chapter. Okay, we're going to move to the NFC North. So if I had to describe this division in one word, I would say tradition. It's some of football's oldest, most historic franchises. That's where they are. These are like the families with the recipes that have been passed down from generation to generation. Like, so good. So let's start with the Chicago Bears, because the Bears are the family that's been around forever. Like grandparents, parents, kids, everybody grew up cheering for the Bears. How dare you cheer for anyone else? And even when life gets messy, like like that tradition, it stays. So Chicago is also one of NFL's oldest teams, and their history, I feel like it's woven into like the fabric of football itself. So think about your grandma's like iron skillet. It's definitely not shiny, because then it wouldn't be a good iron skillet, but nobody's going to throw it away because it represents something so much bigger. Now we have the Detroit Lions. So can we just take a moment for the Lions? Because they might have one of my favorite football stories of all time. Like, the Lions are the woman that everyone underestimates. Like, people, like, they overlook her. They assume she'll always be stuck in her hometown. And then she just quietly keeps working, keeps improving, keeps believing, until one day everyone looks up and realizes she's thriving. Yeah, girl. And that's Detroit, because after decades of disappointment, they've become one of the league's most exciting teams. Their fans have waited a really long time for that hope, so now they have plenty of it. Yay! So think of them as like the comeback story that everybody loves. Gotta love a comeback story. Now we have the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are grandma's handwritten recipe book. It's timeless. It's classic. It's passed down from one generation to the next. And Green Bay is unique because it's the NFL's smallest market, which just means the least amount of people. Like, there's no giant city, there's no Hollywood, just generations of loyal fans. Because, like, football, there isn't just entertainment, it's also family tradition. It's what we've been talking about with that connection. I mean, Green Bay is the epitome of that. So you don't just become a Packers like fan because it's trendy. Well, that's not true. There's definitely people who do that. But in general, it's because you become one because your parents were a fan and their parents were. So think of Green Bay as the family cabin where like everyone gathers on the holidays. It's super comfortable, it's reliable, and it's definitely full of the best history. The next one is the Minnesota Vikings. So the Vikings are the woman who somehow just looks elegant in every situation. I love this girl. So even when life gets chaotic, purple always just stands out. Like, their stadium is incredible, their fan base is passionate, and every season feels like this could finally be the year. They've had incredible teams over the years, and they've come so close to championships, which makes their fans some of the most hopeful in football. So think of the woman that's always like one step away from her biggest dream. Like, you keep rooting for her because you know she totally deserves this moment. So if I had to sum up the NFC North in one sentence, Bears are tradition, the Lions are resilient, the Packers are the family legacy, and the Vikings are that hopeful elegance. Whew, okay, let's take a breath, because we only have 2 divisions left. And trust me, they might be the most, I don't know, like the most fun of all, because the South has some of NFL's biggest personalities, and the West is home to Hollywood's historic dynasties and one of football's most fascinating rivalries. All right, let's head south to the NFC South. If the NFC North feels like family tradition, then the NFC South feels like 4 women with completely different personalities who somehow ended up on the girls' trip, like a really good movie. Like they're fun, they're unpredictable, and every one of them has that unique story, which makes the movie really good. First, we have the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are the woman who has the most talent in the world. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's capable, and everyone keeps saying she's about to have this like breakthrough. But Atlanta has had moments where they've looked incredible and they've been on the biggest stage and they've had the best players, but now fans are just waiting for everything to sort of come together because the Falcons always feel like they're on that like verge of something. So think of it as like your friend who's launching her own business. You know she's capable of amazing things and you're there to cheer her on and you're waiting for her to have her big breakthrough. Now we have the Carolina Panthers. And the Panthers are the youngest mom in the neighborhood. Like she's still sort of figuring things out. She's learning as she goes. And some days are really messy, but some days are amazing. But every year she gets just a little bit wiser and Carolina has sort of been rebuilding. So they're investing in young talent and they're focused on the future. They're not trying to pretend that they're like finished, I guess. They're growing. So think of it as the woman who just bought her first house. Everything isn't perfect yet. That's okay. But you can already picture how beautiful that new house is going to become. Next, New Orleans Saints. So the Saints are the woman who throws the holiday dinners that everyone talks about for years. They're warm, they're welcoming, full of personality, and she knows how to have some serious fun. And New Orleans has become one of the most unique cultures in America. I mean, we know that about New Orleans in general. So their fans bring this awesome energy. They have obviously the music and the celebrations and the community. And I feel like even people who've never been to New Orleans knows that it has this like super unique personality. And the Saints, like they reflect that. They're super resilient and passionate, and they always seem to just bring a little bit of joy everywhere they go. So think of it as like the hostess whose house everybody wants to visit during the holiday. Who doesn't want to be there? It's fun. Now we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are the woman who reinvented herself in her 40s, and suddenly everyone noticed her because for years she was just doing fine, and then she completely transformed. Did you ever see that show? Was it The Swan? So, anyway, she started taking care of herself differently. She built confidence and she found success. And I feel like people who hadn't believed in her for years, they couldn't believe the difference. Next, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the Buccaneers are like the woman who reinvented herself in her 40s. And suddenly everyone noticed her because for years, she was just, she was doing fine. And then she completely transformed herself. She started taking care of herself differently. She built that confidence and she found some success. And people who hadn't seen her in years, they couldn't believe the difference. Tampa Bay they have experienced some incredible highs, and including they've won some Super Bowls. And they've shown that reinvention is possible. And their pirate theme of their team, it also makes them one of the easiest teams to remember. I mean, who doesn't remember pirates, right? Like every 5-year-old birthday. So just remember, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. Now, the NFC South in one sentence. The Falcons are full of potential. The Panthers are growing into themselves. The Saints are the life of the party. And the Buccaneers prove that reinvention can happen at any stage. Okay, can you believe it? We've reached our final division. And honestly, I feel like this one might be the most interesting because these teams feel like four women who just became successful in completely different ways. So who are we talking about? It's the NFC West. Yes, last four. Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are the woman who's quietly working while everyone else is looking elsewhere. Like she doesn't always get the headlines and she isn't the loudest person in the room, but every now and then she reminds everyone that she's absolutely capable of surprising you. So Arizona has spent years just trying to build that consistency, and their fans are super hopeful because they believe what they can become. So think of that like that coworker who's quietly earning the certification while everyone else is just talking. Like one day she gets the promotion because suddenly everyone says like, I didn't see that coming. I didn't know she was working on that. That's right. Get it, girl. Okay, now we have the Los Angeles Rams, and the Rams are Hollywood. Oh, yes. If the football had a red carpet, this would be it, because Los Angeles is glamorous. Just go to SoFi Stadium and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They have big personalities, the bright lights, the huge expectations, and the Rams aren't afraid to make those bold moves. They're willing to take the risks if they believe that it'll help them win. So think of it like the woman who's confident enough to wear the bright red dress when everyone else shows up in black. I wish I had that much guts. Like, that's amazing. Show up in red. Love it. She's definitely not trying to disappear. No, she's comfortable in standing out. Next, San Francisco 49ers. So the 49ers are like the woman who somehow excels at everything. Like, she's organized, she's successful, she's respected, and she's the one that people call when they need advice. I love that gal. Like, San Francisco has one of the richest histories in football. Even today, they are consistently one of the league's strongest teams because they're disciplined and they're balanced, and I feel like they're almost always competitive. So think of that CEO who somehow also like volunteers and runs marathons and still remembers everyone's birthday. Like, they're superheroes. So you might be a little jealous of her, but you also definitely admire her. Next, we have the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are, I don't know, they're like the woman who's happiest outside. Like, she hikes, she skis, she owns 3 different rain jackets, and somehow she's always smiling. I wouldn't if I was always in the rain, but they do. And Seattle's fans are, you know why they're the most famous? If you don't know this, it's because they create one of the loudest home environments in football. Like, they embrace that crazy weather in their city, and they really embrace their identity because the Seahawks always seem to sort of have that underdog spirit, even when they're winning. So think of it like the adventurous friend who's always texting, like, want to go paddleboarding this weekend? Even when it's 45 degrees out? Yeah, that's Seattle. Okay, we're going to attempt something big. All 32 teams in 1 minute. Do you think I can do it? Let's go. Let's see how much you would already remember. Okay? The Bills are the friend who keeps getting close. The Dolphins are always on vacation. The Patriots are the former queen bee. The Jets are eternal optimists. The Ravens are the quiet confidence. The Bengals became the cool younger sibling. The Browns are loyal no matter what. The Steelers are dependable, hard work. The Texans are climbing. The Colts are experienced. The Jaguars are reinventing themselves. The Titans are that dependable strength. The Chiefs are the woman everyone is chasing. The Broncos are making a comeback. The Raiders write their own rules. The Chargers are all about potential. The Cowboys are the famous X. The Giants quietly surprise everyone. The Eagles know exactly who they are. The Commanders are writing a new chapter. The Bears are tradition. The Lions are the comeback story. The Packers are family legacy. The Vikings are hopeful elegance. The Falcons are potential. The Panthers are growing. The Saints are the hostess everyone loves. The Buccaneers are reinvention. The Cardinals are the quiet achiever. The Rams, they're Hollywood. The 49ers are excellence. And the Seahawks are adventure. See, you didn't memorize 32 logos. You met 32 different personalities. So here's how to actually use this the next time you're watching football. Let's say someone says the Lions are playing the Packers. Instead of seeing like 2 random helmets and asking which color we're going for, you'll think, oh, that's the comeback story taking on the team with generations of tradition. If someone says the Chiefs are playing the Raiders, you can say, oh, that's right. That's the team everyone wants to beat against the rebel who really doesn't care what anybody thinks. And suddenly, like, the game has a storyline. It's not just a scoreboard. The more games you watch, the more these personalities will become real. Because before long, you'll start recognizing those uniforms and the players, the rivalries, and you'll realize something truly amazing. You're actually following football without feeling overwhelmed. That's pretty awesome. So I hope this video showed you something super important. Football isn't confusing because you're not smart enough. It's confusing because most people teach it like it's history class with dates and statistics and championships. All fun, but those are just facts. But your brain remembers people. They remember stories and personalities, relationships. And that's why this works. So now when someone asks, who's your favorite team? Like, you might not have an answer yet. Totally fine. Because now you'll actually know who you're watching, that personality, and you'll naturally find yourself rooting for those different personalities. You'll connect to certain fan bases, and before you know it, you're going to have a team. Not because someone told you who to cheer for, but because you like one of the stories and it resonated with you. So if this football somehow made football feel like a little easier than it felt before, don't forget to watch another video over here, somewhere over here. And if you're ready to stop feeling intimidated by football altogether, click on that link and get that confidence lesson. I feel like now you know that learning football can actually be really, really fun. You don't need to know everything. You just need someone to explain it in a way that kind of clicks in your brain, because you just met the entire NFL. And I'd say that's a pretty darn good start. I think you just got a lot sharper. I know you did. I'll see you in the next one.